Hi everybody and welcome to our Soul Tribe mental health event tonight. So tonight it's the 2nd of October 2019, and I know last week in New Zealand it was actually Mental Health Awareness Week, and we weren't quite quick enough. We didn't quite get into that week early enough, but we are running this event this week because it's something that we are all very passionate about. It's something that we all have huge experience in, whether in our own lives or our children's lives. And so what we're really wanting to do tonight is we're really wanting to share our journeys and how much this beautiful program and product has supported our journeys and really reduced a lot of our anxiety, our depression symptoms. And so I'm really, really honoured to be part of a beautiful team of people who really believe in how great nutrition is in support of mental health and mental illness, because honestly we've got so much research out at the moment that really connects our gut health to our brain health and to all those mental health mood disorders and even spectrum disorders with children. So this is we're really just supporting this. We're sharing our stories tonight. So what you're going to hear tonight is real stories from real people. We're not making any claims. We are just sharing our own experience and how much it's really helped us. So I'm Tanya, and I created Soul Tribe and Ignite Your Soul, a couple of years ago now. And we have been running these events every week, but this week, of course, is an extra special event. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm just going to share with you a little bit about our product. And these are the cornerstones to our health changes, to our improvements in our mental health. These have been absolutely incredible for all of us in terms of really supporting our gut health, feeding that good bacteria, and making sure that our mood is more balanced than what it was. So to cut a long story short, basically what our product is it's fruits, veggies, and berries in a capsule. That's it. And it's Juice Plus. And what these were designed for 30 years ago now, what they were designed for is to bridge the gap between what we are eating and what we should be eating. And most of us, let's face it, most of us are not eating the recommended daily dose of between 9 to 13 serves every day. It's really difficult for a lot of people. So no wonder we've got so much mental illness in our society. No wonder we've got so many kids that are really struggling with ADHD and autism. It's really, really sad that there's so many people out there that are not getting the right nutrition. So basically what our capsules are is they are whole food. So they are just fruits, veggies, and berries. There's 33 of them all up. And what's happened is they've been grown on 3-generation organic farms in nutrient-dense soil, and they have been vine ripened. So they are not picked before they're ripened. They're vine ripened, and then they're picked at their best, so they've got that great nutrition. And then they are snap frozen to lock in that goodness. And then within 24 hours, they are the whole fruit, and this is skin, seeds, stalks, everything, because most of the nutrition is in the skins that we usually throw away and the seeds. And then it's kind of slushed down into a big giant juice, and then it's dehydrated at a really, really low temperature so that the nutrients are not destroyed. The enzymes are still live. And then they are popped into a plant-based capsule. And the reason they're put in a capsule is because it means that no oxidation can destroy the nutrients. So it's as fresh as as every time you pop it in your mouth, it's active, it's fresh, it's effective. And so it's going to go straight into your bloodstream within 7 minutes, and it is taken to exactly where your body needs it the most. Now, in terms of, when we think about mental health and how our body is supported, how our mental health, our mood, and our balance is supported, is when the good bacteria is being nourished by these, thousands. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of phytonutrients. When our good bacteria is being nourished by these enzymes and all the goodness and these phytonutrients, then no wonder our mood starts balancing. No wonder we start feeling better. It just makes absolute sense. We're feeding our gut. We are giving it the stuff that it's craving for, that we've been missing out on. And so what we find with that is that, you know, that's when our mood starts balancing out a little bit more. And the other cool thing that we've got about our program, our product, is we have these cool little chews, which are exactly the same as what's in our capsules. It's just that these are in a chewy form for kids. And the cool thing about it is they're free, because our company have a massive mission where they really want to support kids' health now and into the future. So they give, with every adult order, kids get these free between the age of 4 and 18 and up to 4 years. How fantastic is that? They're also GMO and pesticide free, and you know, absolutely the only thing that's in them is just fruits and veggies. It makes complete sense. There's nothing in there that's added on top of that. So it made sense to me. Another really cool product that we've got is we've got our plant-based omega blend, and these are amazing because most of us are also deficient in fatty acids. But what's really cool about these is that they skip the fish. Everybody knows that fish is high in mercury now. Our seas are more polluted than what they were, and so it doesn't make sense to be taking fish and filling up our body with more toxins with mercury. And the other thing is, of course, fish get their omega-3 from algae. So doesn't it make better sense to take our omegas from algae? Absolutely it does. So our algae is grown in a contained and clean environment. And then we also add another 5 plant sources as well, which is mostly fruit seeds. And we have our blend, which is 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. So not just 3, all the blends. And these have been amazing for all sorts of things for myself and my husband in terms of arthritis and joint pain. So amazing little things. And our last products that we have is we have our complete shakes. Now these come in 2 yummy flavours, vanilla and chocolate, and they are just plants and superfoods. That's what they are. They are fantastically full of healthy proteins, healthy fats, and healthy carbs. They give us just what our body needs for a whole meal. So they are an excellent alternative when it comes to, you know, after school snacks for kids. Hot chocolates at the end of the night, giving these instead is so much better. It's got way less sugar and it's just plants. The other cool thing about these, which is great for, you know, our mental health awareness on the event tonight, is that they have a niacin in them, which is a natural mood booster, which is fantastic. We find a lot of people who do have depression also use these once a day as well, which really helps to keep their mood balanced, as well as our micronutrients. So these are fantastic to use also if you're meal skippers. I'm a traveller, so I love taking these when I travel. They're great too when I'm racing out the door and I know I'm not going to get enough, I'm not going to get a meal, so these are a great option. So that's pretty much our products. I'm not really going to talk much more about that. Tonight is more about sharing our stories. And so, you know, for me, I personally, I've suffered from depression a couple of times throughout my lifetime. And obviously after I had babies, or around the time that I was pregnant and having babies, was really a difficult time for me. But I really didn't notice it quite so bad for myself. I managed to, you know, get myself out of that. I'm not quite sure how, but for me it was more my daughter. So at the time my daughter was 15 and we had been going through a really, really rough time with her. Her anxiety was severe. It was severe to the point where she would have panic attacks regularly, like, you know, 3-4 times a day, and she would cut to relieve the pain. And this was extremely difficult for us because we didn't know how to support her. She would be constantly tearful. She would barricade herself in a room and wouldn't let us in. We had, you know, we couldn't even get the blades off her. I remember being on the phone to the CAT team so many times, trying to get the blades off her, or just to get her to talk to me. It was just a huge struggle, you know, getting text messages from her boyfriend saying Maya's got blades, she's going to cut herself, and she won't listen to me, you know, and not being able to do anything about it was really, really difficult. And so we got her into a psychologist's care. And then she was with them for a while, but it got to the point where nothing was changing. And the psychologist said to us, look, you know, she needs to see a psychiatrist. She needs medication. Nothing is really working. And so it was about that time that I had discovered these capsules, and I was really sick myself, really sick. I had an autoimmune disorder, adrenal fatigue, and leaky gut. So I had a lot of things going on, exhaustion and everything. And of course, my mood was really low as well because of all that. And so at that time, I discovered it for myself. And of course, I was getting the product free for my daughter. So I ordered it and I got her the product free. And we were only 2 days away from getting it. It was just the most perfect timing. And so I said to her psychologist, look, Maya and I don't want to do the medication thing. Can we just try these fruits and veggies first? She looked at me like, what are you talking about? You like I was talking another language. And we're like, can we just give this a go? So we did. And honestly, within a week, it was probably about 3 days, she started coming out of her room. The tears stopped. The triggers weren't quite so bad. I remember her coming up to me and coming up, so she would never come out of her room. You know, we would see her quickly kind of scoot from the bedroom to the fridge to get some food and disappear again, and we would hardly see her. But she actually started coming out of her room, coming to the kitchen, and she actually said to me, Mum, I feel so positive. I don't know what's wrong. It's really weird. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. It's great. And she started talking to me. And, you know, the panic attacks disappeared, that she wasn't cutting anymore. And honestly, it's 2 years now, 2 years down the track, she is a different girl. She is so positive. She's so much happier. She just doesn't even get panic attacks, like just doesn't get them at all. And the anxiety is so much less now, like even to the point where she actually sat her driver's license and she looked a bit freaked and I said, are you okay, honey? She said, you know what, Mum, I'm fine. And I was like, whoa, that's really cool. So for us, it's really, really changed our life. And I mean, I'm going to stop talking now because I could just go on about how amazing all night that it is. But I'm now going to pass you on over to the beautiful Loach, and she's going to share her story about how much these products have supported her journey.
Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Hey guys, thanks tons. I love that story. It just always warms my heart. It's just so inspiring. Yeah, this is a subject that's really, really close to my heart because I've known many people who have suffered from different degrees of mental illness and even just stress. And for me, I've experienced it myself firsthand. And before I experienced it myself, I've been a homeopath for quite a few years now. I used to treat people with anxiety, depression, mainly. And I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea until I experienced it myself. And sometimes you actually don't know what it's like until you experience it yourself. And it completely just blew me away. It was a very hard time, but I just grew incredibly from the experience. I basically had a breakdown, a classic sort of midlife breakdown in my early 40s. Got diagnosed with PTSD. I had a whole lot of trauma that came up from my childhood. And sort of I had a whole lot of stuff happen to me leading up to that time. And it all kind of just spilled up and out as it does at a certain time of our life if we don't deal with certain things. But I was ready also, even though it was kind of hideous. I kind of knew before then that there was stuff that I had been suppressing. So how it manifested for me was panic attacks. And I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. The first panic attack I had, I rang the ambulance because I actually thought I was dying. It was really terrifying. And then I kind of went on to have panic attacks kind of daily, and then they were coming hourly. So I just felt a real loss of control, a sense of control. For the first time in my life, I always felt very strong, independent, and that I could get through anything. And it was the first time in my life I felt really scared. It was really out of my control. And of course I tried everything naturally, but at that point my system was just so out of whack because I was in so much shock as all the traumatic memories came up, etc. And so I went on medication, and that was hard as well, finding the right medication that helped with my panic attacks. And so once we found the right one, that basically put me in a place where I could deal with what was happening. I learnt CBT. I had a really, really great therapist, and she taught me the skills of how to, basically how to stop panic attacks in their tracks, and I did. And it took a couple of years, but it was great. It was hard. It was hideous, don't get me wrong. But I worked through a lot of stuff in that time, which I needed to. So basically I got to that point, and then I thought, right, that's it. Don't have panic attacks anymore. I've sorted that out, dealt with it. I want to come off this medication. And so I did. I weaned myself off. And then I kind of crashed, as you do sometimes, when you've been on something and then you come off. And so I went and saw a naturopath, and she had me on a whole host of different vitamins and supplements and things. And they were kind of helping a little bit. They were costing me a lot of money. But they weren't quite I still wasn't feeling 100%, and my anxiety was quite bad. And one day Tans was over for lunch, and she said, look, why don't you try this? It's worked for me. And I had watched her journey, and I had complete faith in her and a friend, and her as a friend, a good friend, and I'd watched what she'd come through herself, which was incredible. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And at that point, I didn't actually fully get how fruits and veggies would be able to help my anxiety. But I took a leap of faith, and I did it, and I started. And I detoxed for about 3 weeks, where I wondered what the hell was going on. But then after that, I woke up one day and I just felt like my old self again. It was absolutely incredible. I just felt this huge weight lift, and I felt more like myself than I had in years. And it just went on from there and continued to improve every day. And this is why I'm so passionate about these products, because basically for me, they are my cornerstone. I have many other tools. I still have anxiety, but these days it's just like a minimal little buzz in the background, like a little kind of tiny, it used to be this big roar. And it helps me to manage and basically just get on with my life and live a full life. I also had adrenal fatigue, and the capsules completely sorted that out in combination with the whole food diet, because I'm a full believer in the power of micronutrients and healing, gut healing, and how we have serotonin that's made in our gut, all of that balance stuff. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to quickly say is that things were going really well, and then last year I had a really, really challenging year when I was physically and sexually assaulted by someone, and it was just hideous. I was so stressed out, and I tell you what, these products and my diet and my tools that I've learned got me right through last year, and that to me is a test. It's like, yep, okay, I'm doing okay, until something happens. Well, something did happen, and here I am today, still doing what I did back then when I first found this relief. So yeah, I'm just so grateful, and I'm happy to share my story if it's going to help someone else out there to actually know that there are other tools and other ways and means. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I think I'm passing on to Rachel now.
Thanks for that, Loach. It was an awesome story. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes, hopefully. All right, so my story with mental health is basically I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, pretty much my whole life. And when I started high school at the age of 13, that really plummeted for me. I'd lost pretty much all the friends that I knew. I was in a new environment, very stressful, a lot of pressures. My whole routine was out of whack. I was at a point where I was having panic attacks constantly, to the point where the school ended up hosting a meeting. It was a whole group of the school counsellor, a group of teachers that taught me regularly, and my mum, and they looked at my mum and they said, she's 13, but you've got to get her on some kind of medication. You have to get something to control it. And my mum had watched her mum go through severe depression for most of her life, and she said, look, I really don't want to start a 13-year-old on antidepressants, and I really don't think that's a good idea. The school said, well, look, you've got to do something. And so there wasn't really much we could do, so I kind of just kept struggling through, and I found kind of the most abusive ways I could to myself to kind of push myself through, and I became more rebellious, more trouble in school, just as it got worse. And I kind of kept fighting through my mental health, and it was really hard. And then at 16, I went behind my parents' back. I'd finally had enough, and I finally knew that I needed something to help me. And I made an appointment with my doctor, and I said to her, look, I'm sorry, but you've got to give me some kind of medication. I can't cope anymore. And at that time, she said to me, well, I will need you to be seen by a psychiatrist, and they'll make that assessment. So my dad and I went and we saw a psychiatrist, and basically what happened was Dad signed all necessary paperwork and then waited downstairs for me, and I spoke to them, and they sent me a letter, and they said, from what we can see, we definitely agree with you. We think you do need some kind of medication to support you, which was great. That was exactly what I wanted. So I went back to my doctor and I said, right, they've come back. They agree with what I've said. They think that I do need this kind of medication to help me. And the doctor just looked at me and she said, well, I'm sorry, but I disagree. So then I made the decision that actually, if that doctor wasn't going to give me what I needed, then I would have to leave doctors and find somebody who would. And that's exactly what I did. So I changed doctor surgeries just so I could get my medication, because I was so determined that that was what I needed to balance out my mental health with some tablets. And after trying lots of tablets, I finally found something that started helping. Had a lot of other side effects, like I pretty much couldn't sleep at all. My brain was just overworking so constantly that I just couldn't sleep. Gave me a lot of other really nasty side effects, but I was slowly beginning to get control of my anxiety and my depression. And then I left school and I did what I thought my dream was of farming, and the way I could see it was my health had been so bad that once I finally did what I wanted to do, everything would come right. And unfortunately that didn't quite happen. A couple of months after I started, my health just went on a downward spiral. It just really plummeted. They were at a point where I actually went into hospitalised care for a certain amount of time because they were just so worried about me. So yeah, I was really at an all-time low, and then they adjusted my meds yet again, and I started seeing a psychologist on a regular basis. Things were kind of coming right, but I still wasn't 100%. My anxiety was still really constant. And I still didn't feel any better really than what I had. My depression was still really strong. Everything was still just as hard as it ever had been, kind of, but I was managing, I was getting through the days, and that was kind of all I could do. And then when I was 17, there were some referral forms put through to get me some therapy. And basically one of the forms came back and it said anxiety and depression with possible autism. And I looked and I rang my psychologist and I said to her, possible autism? And she said, oh, okay. And I said, but autism is normally diagnosed with children, by the age of 5. And I said, well, if we think it is autism, then why don't we go ahead and we do the testing and we'll find out for sure. And so we went ahead and we did that testing. And pretty much as soon as I got the report back, they confirmed the diagnosis and it was autism. And as soon as I read the report, everything in the report just fitted exactly with who I was, because I'd always known I wasn't a normal child. I'd always known that, but I didn't quite know what was wrong. I couldn't pinpoint it. But as soon as I got that report, I just knew that was me. It was just me to a T. It was 100%. Everything I'd gone through was just there on paper, and I just could see it, and it made my life so much easier knowing that. And yeah, so then I after receiving all of that diagnosis and having to deal with that and learning about obviously my condition and how it affects me and the spectrum and a lot more about it, I decided that although I had what they call high functioning autism, so basically what that means is that although I have autism, I can still function and live a relatively normal life, compared to someone on the lower end of the spectrum who, you know, will never, some people on the lower end of the spectrum won't ever speak or, you know, have conversations and that kind of thing. So I figured that if I could have a relatively normal life, then I could have a 40-hour-a-week job. So I went out and I got a 40-hour-a-week job, and I hit probably rock bottom. I had a job previous to that, but I'd always wanted a full-time job, and that's what everyone had been saying to me, you need to work and you need to work full-time. And I hit my all-time low. And yeah, it was probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made. It was absolutely horrible. I hated it. Not only that, but I couldn't cope with the amount of work and the stress of the workplace. So I left. I took the payout and I left. And at the time, a friend of mine, Hazel, had been sharing all these posts on her page about, you know, how much better she was doing and these amazing products. And I sent her a message and I just said, what are these products that you're using? And she said, oh, it's 100% whole pressed fruits, veggies and berries in a capsule. They're great. And I just said, I need them. I'm taking them. I'll do it. And I didn't need to know anymore. I just wanted them there and then. So yeah, I took them, and from there on in I started feeling better. My anxiety reduced. I started building a little bit more confidence. I have a bit more energy than what I used to. Obviously that's a major symptom with my autism, is not having a lot of energy to be able to do a lot of things. I sleep an awful lot more than what other people do, and so 12 hours is fairly minimal for me. That's fairly standard for me every night. But I started just feeling generally better, and it's been definitely a tough journey, but it has been so worth it to find a product that wasn't medication, because obviously I don't want to spend the rest of my life on antidepressants. And so yeah, basically I started on the product, and then not long after I'd started on the product, I had a meeting with my psychiatrist, and we lowered the dosage of the medication I was on from 225 milligrams down to 75 milligrams. And with the aim of hopefully by the end of the year coming completely off antidepressants, because I'd like to be able to support myself just on the Juice Plus, because I think getting your nutrients from your food is far better for you and far more effective than taking a whole lot of pharmaceutical drugs, And also, the beauty of this product is you don't have all the harsh side effects that you do with, any other chemicals and that. So that's kind of my story and where I've been and what I've come through. So I believe I'm handing you over to Emma now.
Hi everyone.
Hi Emma, would you like me to ask you some questions, beautiful? Are you ready to rock and roll?
No, if you can ask me some questions, that'd be great.
Okay, great.
Your best.
So Emma, I'm so blessed that you've jumped on here, honey, because I know you've got a really incredible story, and I know that you're doing this because you want to help people. So love you for that. So tell us about your own journey with anxiety before you started this product.
So I've been, so I have, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety about 5 years ago, when I started having panic attacks, and I thought I was having a heart attack and thought I was going to have to, thought I was dying basically as well. So some of your stories have been really inspiring, and yeah, it's really has really resonated with me tonight. I was really sick. My mood was really low for many years. I was in shitty relationships. So panic attacks, I felt how hopeless and worthless inside, and I felt like the worst parent, and that everyone would be better off without me. I didn't want to be here a year ago, so that was really hard. At the time, my daughter was also diagnosed at 17 with bipolar, so mental illness has been a huge part of my life, my past. Apart from that, dealing with psychologists, counselling, and all of that sort of thing. Trying different avenues. I was going to an energy healer. I was going to the chiropractor because I'd get really bad headaches. I was on basically. I lost confidence in myself a year ago when I decided to leave my job. I lost hope and faith, and I relied and trusted on the doctor to help me, and my daughter as well, which included upping my medications, sleeping pills and antibiotics, spending money on supplements and vitamins, alcohol, and sometimes even drugs. So just to cover up my pain, and feel happy for a while, cope with life, because that's the way I knew how. So I was stuck and I was scared. My skin was a mess. I had chronic fatigue all the time. My gut health was just so bad. I was bloated, constipated, or I had diarrhea. I had constant pains in my tummy, thrush, UTIs. My hair was falling out. My mood was always low. I would cry. I would just want to cry and just be left. I was really bad. My immune system was just really compromised. Brain fog, memory loss. I couldn't sleep properly. So mental illness, it's not something that we should take lightly. We really need to deal with our problems head on. I knew I had to do something. I had tried everything, and I had spent so much money on trying to heal myself, and I knew that I had to heal myself. And Tanya's story is very similar to mine. My daughter was cutting as well, in and out of hospitals. It was a really rough time. So I've been through a lot with the public system, and I'm just pleased to say that our health refers not to only physical but also emotional and spiritual wellness. I've got my daughter doing more mindfulness techniques now, and so I was working on my mind for a couple of years, thank God, because I probably wouldn't be here. And I believe that these tablets have, the capsules have really coped with me. I'm not on any medication anymore, neither is my daughter. We have managed to overcome all of that on our own, and I'm so glad and so grateful that they're in our life, because we're different people than we were even 1 year ago and even 4 months ago. We've been on the capsules for about 4.5 months now, and they've changed our lives. We're just so grateful. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Emma. So thank you so much for sharing, honey. That was such a powerful story, and I know there's a few people here with tears. So that for sharing, just being brave enough to share was huge for you. I know that, and that's such a powerful story. So thank you, honey. And thank you to everyone else, Rachel and Loach, who also shared tonight. So that is our event, guys. I know if you're on here and you are, you're suffering as well, or you know someone else who is suffering, please reach out to the person who invited you here tonight or who has sent you to this recording, and just ask them how you can be supported, how they can help you to feel better, how they can help you to, reduce your suffering as well, because we're all here to support each other. That's what we love doing. We just love knowing that we have an incredible product that can help support your bodies to really heal itself and to get back into that balance. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight, and have a beautiful evening.